President Biden on the stump in the Golden State today, campaigning for California Governor Gavin Newsom ahead of the state's recall election tomorrow. Here now, Dan Henninger of the Wall Street Journal. He's also a Fox Business contributor. Great to see you as always, Dan. As a matter of fact, I think the president is speaking in California right now, but it's staggering to me with everything going on. Afghanistan, you've got a crisis at the border. The country is still dealing with COVID-19, and he makes time to go to California to campaign for Newsom. What's even more appalling than that is Kamala Harris doing it. She's been silent on all of this, and that's the forum she chooses to express herself.
Yes, Jackie, it may be appalling, but the question is, why are they doing it? And I think the reason is pretty clear, that they are concerned. I don't know that they're so concerned that Gavin Newsom is going to lose the recall election. He seems to be pretty well ahead. But, you know, Governor Newsom has been out there blaming the recall effort on Trumpists, the far right, and so forth. They have nothing whatsoever to do with his problems in California. The problem is California itself. And I think President Biden, Kamala Harris are worried that in next year's off-year elections, the Democratic Party could indeed, reflected in this, what's going on with Newsom, could indeed lose more House seats, just as he did in the last election. So that's what they're trying to do, is shore up their support out there in California. But, Jackie, that takes nothing away from the reality of the homelessness, the crime, the high cost of living that is driving people out of California.
Well, it's amazing to me because Newsom's narrative is now that, you know, California is one of the best states to manage COVID, which was unequivocally not true. And I'm wondering if he lives in the same universe as us, as this was going on over the last 18 months with the lockdowns and the devastation that occurred there. It's amazing to me how he gets up there and just essentially starts a whole new narrative and tells a different story.
Well, he doesn't have much choice. Gavin Newsom didn't personally create all these problems, but he is the governor now, and he is the inheritor of decades of left-wing progressivism in California that has led to its current plight. He has to bear some responsibility for it, and so he gets up and tries to change the subject to other issues. Fortunately, his opponents, such as Larry Elder, I think have done a very good job of making claims on behalf of the California middle class who are suffering now in California, the Golden State. It just doesn't look so golden anymore. And that's what's being exposed by Gavin Newsom's recall.
And what was really interesting to me was the fact that the governor chose to continue with stimulus in the state. Some people have said it's akin to buying votes. I mean, I guess that's how you do it.
Well, isn't that what the Biden legislation in Congress right now is doing? $3.5 trillion in spending. Pretty clearly, the Democratic game plan now, Jackie, is pretty much reduced to that. Spending a lot of money, buy votes, regardless of what your policies perform their intended function or not. And these days, their policies are failing, and their solution is just keep spending.
Yeah, you give people free stuff, and they're going to vote for you. Dan Henninger, great to see you tonight. Thanks.
All right, Jackie.